This is SBR's Football Betting Daily.
What up, football fans? It is Friday, October 26th at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, which means it is time for the Audible with myself, Jimmy the Bag, and as always, alongside with me, the legend, Mr. Donnie Rightside. We had a great start to the week on Tuesday breaking down this card, and I can't wait to hammer it again. Whale Capper will be here in 30 minutes. How you feeling, Donnie?
Football Friday, ain't no better time on the card. You should have your plays starting to materialize for the weekend. A lot more about the injury cards that are coming up, who's practicing, who's not, line movements throughout the week. Let's dig deep into this, Jimmy. Let's find those winners and go over the entire card. Let's have some fun today.
I love it, and I'm so thankful these great cappers on the chat have joined us. Shout out to Vitalis, my man Bill Butlicker, who has been, I can't even, just straight fire with props. I've never seen anybody on this kind of a roll that Bill Butlicker's on. We have Angelos joining us, Mikey T 1980, Crypto Boss, Brick City Matthew, Ron Fig, Nutflush Allen, Tomarino Tomor. Let's get to work. First off, if you just want to touch quickly on the Thursday nighter, the Dolphins are a sinking ship. For some reason, I had the Texans, but for some reason I went on the under as well, which is just a horrifyingly terrible mistake. But do you have any feelings for these two teams moving forward? I think the Dolphins are terrible, and the Texans look like they're rolling. They look like the team we thought they were going to be from the beginning of the year.
Yeah, the Dolphins are too injured right now. I mean, you can't lose your starting quarterback and a couple weapons and expect to go on the road on a Thursday night football game and compete. But I was with you there. I thought Houston was the right side there. It was a lot of points, 7.5. But if they were going to win the football game, they were probably going to cover. I actually thought it would be a little bit more low scoring the same way you did. But, boy, they came right out. There were some big plays last night. Looks like Deshaun Watson got it together. And it's an interesting look moving forward. And I know the one thing that's going to give them a problem is the injury bug just keeps on creeping up and biting Houston. They're going to have to replace the wide receiver. Will Fuller steps away, when the guy that can run fast and be certainly a weapon on one side to take the coverage away from DeAndre Hopkins. You're going to have to find a reasonable starter. Devontae Parker was out there who actually played well last night for the Miami Dolphins. A guy like that on the opposite side that can help with the coverage being rolled to him. But I like where Houston's going. I never thought in a million years, Jimmy, they would be back in position winning 5 straight. But then again, thank you, Jesus, for Frank Reich giving them life on the season. We'll see if they move forward. But I think they're clearly the favorite to me now in the AFC South.
They look like it. Let's get to work with these games starting in London, England. London, England. But Angelo's mentioning Will Fuller out for the season. And Donnie was talking about the injury bug attacking both these teams. Looking forward to cap these teams next week as well. Eagles at Jaguars in London. I love hearing your Eagles breakdown. I thought, maybe we'd see Cody Kessler. It doesn't look like that will be the situation. It is hard to believe that both of these teams come in at 3-4. Wentz's season has been respectable. 10 touchdowns, 1 pick, 70.8 completion percentage. That puts him 4th in the NFL. Bortles, on the other hand, has been just awful. Just awful. He's throwing 8 picks, 9 touchdowns, 60.6% of his passes completed. Jaguars in the midst of a 3-game losing streak. They've been outscored in the first half 57-0 combined in those 3 games. In those 3 games, Bortles has 8 turnovers. We will see Carlos Hyde, not entirely sure what he is going to do. And AJ Bouye will not be in the lineup for the Jags. This line opened at -3. On Tuesday, there were -3s, -3.5. That's the same as it is now. The total opened at 41. Then on Tuesday, there were 41.5s and 42s. Now we see 43s. It keeps creeping up, Donnie. Eagles at Jaguars, London, England. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, neutral site. I mean, I actually think the Eagles are the play. Not because I like the Eagles, but I just think it's a better locker room scenario. Jim, you grew up in Canada, right? So we're going to equate this to like a life situation here. Maybe you're playing a little bit of pond hockey out there or down at the local ice rink, and you get out there and you say, God damn it, this guy's on my team again and goalie? That's the same thing the Jacksonville Jaguars are saying every time they enter into the locker room going, we're a good defense here, but this damn quarterback is over here and he's holding us up. And then you hear the infighting come up. You're fighting behind the scenes. And even you have Blake Bortles giving press conference saying, look, it's funny that when I stink, that's all they talk about, but not when, he basically wants to say is the defense stinks too right now, not only me. The infighting is hilarious there. And you're right. Who are you going to? Cody Kessler? Is he going to be the one that's going to come in and you have the tag team high five and he enters into the ring and all of a sudden you start putting up 30 and 40 points? That's not happening. The one thing I think of is Carson Wentz should be able to move the football against Jacksonville, especially the Jacksonville defense that we've seen the past couple weeks. It might only take 24 points, 21 points to cover that line and win this football game. What I see from the Jacksonville offense can't really get after the Eagles defense as effectively as you would like. You don't have a deep passing game. You don't have an intermediate passing game. And you don't have a great running game. So what's sort of like? Also, the A.J. Bouye injury is enormous for Jacksonville. The tandem of both him and Ramsey back there holds a lot of defenses down. Now you're going to rely on a couple rookie cornerbacks that you might be able to run some, for better words, game on those guys on one side. I just trust the Eagles more than they do Jacksonville in the spot. One team fighting, one team's not. Give me the team that's at least a little bit of solidarity in the locker room.
I can agree with that. Tomor saying, I think Houston is overrated. They really haven't beaten. And back to the Houston spot. Excuse me, sorry. Crypto Boss saying, Jags are a mess on and off the field. Jags will lay down. Tomor saying, Philadelphia's been strong off of losses, but inconsistent. I'm curious what you think about this total. And do you agree with Tomor when he says this line gives the Jags too much respect for having played in London before? And they played in London many times. Do you feel that that's at play here?
Yeah, you know what's interesting is that there's probably going to be way more Eagle fans in London than there are Jacksonville. So I don't care how many times you play in London. You could say the same thing about the Chargers. Hey, the Chargers at home. Is it really home if they get outnumbered every single game at home by their own fans? I don't think that's going to play too much into it. Maybe if the Jacksonville Jaguars were coming into this game 5-1, 6-1, rolling and, getting those good feels up there. But this is a team that's fighting. So you're going to put them on that tin can plane for even a long enough time saying, I can't even believe I got to look at Blake Bortles for 6 hours on this flight. I can't even take it anymore. It's a lot of fighting going on there. I think it'll be a scrappy game, and I tend to be a lower scoring game because, look, that's what the Eagles are right now. When the Eagles score, it seems like, Jimmy, 9 plays, 7 minutes off the clock and a touchdown. That's what this – I don't see that many big plays going off on both sides, so that would tend to be an under type of situation for me, Jimmy.
Are you surprised that the market has been pushing it, the total up to 43, or do you think that's because the total opened at such a low spot at 41?
It's exactly. We talk about it all the time, Jimmy. When you just see a number, I don't even care who's playing back there. You hang a 41 and people are just like, 41? So both these teams get into the 20s and I win my bet. Where do I sign up? 1 interception, 1 touchdown sends that completely the opposite direction. So.
Yeah, I agree. Great breakdown. Anna Merrick joining us. Congratulations, Anna Merrick. He will be providing his MMA analysis at Sportsbook Review for each UFC contest moving forward. Richly deserved. You are a great guy and a great capper. Dom Ricci says Jags might have played the most in London. God knows they can't score any points in America. Beautifully put, Dom, my man. And let's move on. Shout out to all these guys. Love these cappers joining us. Sam Estrada, Anil Frank, Mr. Knockout 66. Let's keep rolling. Hit the 1 o'clock games in America. Browns at Steelers. Couple different interesting spots here. Also, I've made 4 official plays on the Low Shack and the Bag Show. I have not made any bets yet. Just like Anil Frank saying, I can't place an NFL bet until I watch this Friday show. I did that last week and I went 9-2. I agree completely. Let's milk Donnie and the Whale Capper for all of their knowledge before we start making our bets. I agree completely, Anil. So first off, I had to lean towards the under on our show Tuesday, Browns Steelers, and you helped lead me there with your analysis, and the market must have heard us because the total and all the opening lines I tell are from Bet Online. I've moved from using Pinnacle as my opener to Bet Online because I know that Bet Online puts the totals and the spreads out first, and I want to know what the actual first thing on the board is. So the total opened at 50.5. Then on our show Tuesday, it got up to 51, and now 49s, 48.5s, and it's still -8s across the board for the Steelers. Cleveland defensive end Myles Garrett looked very, very good against these Steelers week 1. Clearly, the Steelers are going to have to put a game plan in place for him. He has 7 sacks on the season. He forced 2 fumbles in that fourth quarter of the week 1 game. Also, Denzel Ward had 2 interceptions in that game, and I started falling madly in love with him. And I just think he's spectacular. Randall and Kirksey each have 2 interceptions for the Browns this season, and this entire Steelers defense only has 4 interceptions throughout the whole season. But there are some issues here. Joe Scoper has a hamstring injury, and E.J. Gaines, cornerback, is dealing with a concussion. The Browns just continue to find ways to lose. The Steelers are coming off a bye. You were saying on Tuesday that you feel like this team is finding themselves and starting to roll. Can't wait to hear your breakdown a few days later, Donnie.
I'm feeling the same boat. I mean, I think Pittsburgh's rested and ready. And again, you're going to try to attack Pittsburgh, what you could do early in the season when Joe Hayden was down and they're banged up in the secondary through the air. But now how are you going to do that? Much more healthy in the back end there. We know they have a good and active front seven that should be get after a rookie quarterback on the road. You can't take a lot out of game one because we saw that game in the rain where Pittsburgh was up, I believe, 21-7 late in that football game, had a couple fluky turnovers, and next thing you know, we ended up in a game with a tie. I think Pittsburgh's going to be the much better team in this game. The only thing that makes me a little bit leery is you're right. When you lay 8 in a division game, it's kind of tough. I might even be looking at something maybe a little bit different, like a first half there. I can see Pittsburgh being up at the half in this game, something around like a 17-6 or maybe a 14-7, but at least being enough to cover that 7 at the half. We saw last week the same MO. You sent the Cleveland Browns on the road. They were getting housed by Tampa Bay, but look, the games are long. Even though Tampa Bay kept shutting the door, teams tend to take the air out of the football, and Baker Mayfield was able to make some plays in the second half. That Jarvis Landry touchdown sliding across from the 2 to the 1 to the goal line was a nice effort. So I think the Steelers come out in the first half and really set the tone. I could see the Steelers being up 7 or more at the half, but if I'm going to take it at the half, and this is a show that we're going and giving out information on, they're probably going to cover the full game as well. Steelers are nothing for me in this game. I think that first game was a little bit of, an aberration because I thought the Steelers really outplayed them, and this is a better Steelers football day team today than it was opening day.
I agree with that analysis. Tom Marino and Bill Butlicker both feel like Pittsburgh rolls, and Marco Liu and Crypto Boss think that this coaching staff of the Steelers led by Tomlin is inept, and you shouldn't trust them or him to help you cover 2 scores. Do you feel like this total now down 2 points and 2.5 points from where we were on Tuesday, that taking the under at 48.5 puts you on the ass end of this total and might be a mistake?
I don't think so, because look, when I look at Cleveland Browns, beginning of the season, let's say take Pittsburgh first. Pittsburgh was so banged up on defense, they had no choice but to try to outscore other teams. Played a couple hot teams, and you're never going to have a good defense. Look, you're playing Atlanta. You're playing the Kansas City Chiefs. You're playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before the crystal broke or the Cinderella shoe broke. You played a lot of really hot, talented, firepower offenses. That's not Cleveland. When Baker Mayfield drops back to pass, he says, all right, I got Njoku in the flat. He'll drop the ball. I have Jarvis Landry. Yeah, he'll catch 11 passes for like 42 yards on the game. You don't have Josh Gordon anymore to make a play for you downfield. Who do you have? The Cleveland Browns are not a total team anymore. They're more of an under. This is the division game. They know each other. They're going to lean on Connor in the backfield. I think the Steelers will take the lead, pretty much do what they want in this football game, but I don't know if Cleveland, and it's a common moniker I used the past couple of shows, can return fire here to make it an over game. Division game, 50 points around there, I'll lean on the under every time.
I like that breakdown. Also, I think that you're right, and this may need some more time, but that first half play might be the sharpest of them all. Not have to worry about all the points and just focus on the Steelers getting off to a nice start off their bye, which really is something that's a possible outcome here. Angelo says Pittsburgh is a play. Too many disappointing overtime losses for the Browns. They tied with luck back in week 1 because of the heavy rain. Oh, they tied with luck back in week 1 because of the heavy rain. Mayfield versus Big Ben. Give me the old man. Theodore McIntosh says Bob Wiley will have Cleveland O-line ready. The Browns are ready to compete in the division. Pittsburgh plays down to opponents, and they have a continued locker room distraction. Very interesting other way of looking at it, Theodore McIntosh. Quinn Rivera says Tomlin does weird shit. Goes for 2-point conversions when it doesn't make sense.
Yes, he does.
But it's Steelers or
right.
Nobody in this game.
No,
wow,
I know.
What
Also,
do you
Jimmy,
think of Theodore McIntosh's breakdown?
Yeah. No, I agree, because I don't agree with the actual locker room distraction there, because Le'Veon Bell hasn't been there all year, and from the looks of it, nobody's ever heard from him, and they have a pretty good running back that's running. So I don't know how much of a distraction they actually have at this point. But looking at the first half, you would figure, Jimmy, right? If the Steelers are 10-10 at the half, you're probably going to, I don't know if you can, maybe they have a great second half, but you would say, oh, man, Cleveland came to play here. Just has the feel of one of those games, 21-10, 21-7, 16-7 at the half, where the Steelers are already up right off the bat. That just have one of those, because it's hard to gauge in the first half of what you think is going to happen as opposed to the full game. I just think rested and ready. I think they're the better football team. And let's not forget, Jimmy, another overtime game on the road last week versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So maybe attrition for Cleveland setting in as well.
I agree. Tough to back them off an overtime loss. I am concerned about taking unders, if we've seen them this year bite us, even when we have the right play all the way through.
Yes.
Crypto Boss says, I hate betting unders in NFL these days. Too many factors contribute to overs. After this breakdown, Donnie, I am sold on your first half play. I am sold and will be making that bet. Thank you for your analysis there. Let's keep rolling. Broncos at Chiefs. Open Chiefs -10. And then there were 10s and 9.5s. On Tuesday, there are a few more 9.5s, but that still is the case. The total opened at 55.5. On Tuesday, there were 55.5s through 54.5s. I talked about maybe the over being a play. The total has dropped even further, now to 53.5. We talked on Tuesday about how incredible this Chiefs offense looked. The big point I wanted to make on Tuesday was that the Broncos offense is worse than the Bengals offense, and the Bengals put up just 10 points at Arrowhead. Now we get more information on what's going on in this game and the matchups that are going to be the most important matchups. Probably Chiefs right tackle Mitchell Schwartz trying to control Von Miller. Miller third in the league in sacks with 7.5, but he did not get any in the first meeting with the Chiefs. But he's had 2 good games against pretty weak opponents in the last couple of weeks, or especially against the Cardinals, I should say. Sorry. A big game against a weak Cardinal squad last week. Emmanuel Sanders continues to play well. I've been talking about him all season. Phillip Lindsay's been productive, averaging 5.8 yards per carry. The running game will be coming very handy against these Chiefs. Chiefs allow 5.2 yards per carry, the worst in the league. But we always have to go back to this league-leading offense. Now, the Broncos did limit Mahomes to just 1 touchdown pass and his second lowest passing yardage total of the season. But do we attribute that to the weather that day, to playing a mile high? He has a league-leading 22 touchdown passes for the season. This is an incredible offense. We talk about it nonstop. Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Kareem Hunt, and then you forget about Sammy Watkins. This is a dangerous offense. But this will be Mahomes' 9th NFL start and 3rd against Denver. Drew Barron saying Denver will hang with them. Nut Flush says KC first half is low-hanging fruit. I was questioning whether the Chiefs were the play on Tuesday and whether the over was the play. Can't wait to hear your breakdown. Broncos at Chiefs, Donnie.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's another divisional matchup. If you watched a couple weeks ago, same thing we were talking about on the Tuesday Audible show, is Denver hung around. Arguably, you could have made a nice argument that they should have beaten Kansas City Chiefs. Now, also, you say, all right, second time around, you've seen them already. You took their best punch. It was a 4-point game. Now you step on the road and it's 10. If we take a look last week, I think the worst thing that could happen to Kansas City backers is we talked last week again, the Cincinnati game. It was a horrible spot for Cincinnati. Heartbreaking loss at home versus the Steelers. Then you got to go on the road against a red-hot team on prime time. They were just completely undressed that entire football game. The one thing you have to like if you're Denver, you have extra time to prepare. You had a feel-good game. You went on the road and absolutely destroyed an awful Arizona Cardinals team that you should have destroyed here. Let's take a look overall what Kansas City's been doing the past couple of games. San Francisco game at home, 38-27, manageable, right around that 10-point number. Denver on the road, 4-point game. You beat Jacksonville up in the rain, which again, Blake Bortles and that train wreck Jacksonville squad that was throwing interceptions left and right and couldn't get out of their own way in that game. You go on the road versus New England. You take a loss. That's a 3-point game that you lost. But then again, the Cincinnati game coming back was a perfect spot for the Kansas City Chiefs. Taking a look overall at what Denver likes to do, there's a lot of things. You know, you can run the football versus Kansas City. This isn't a great Kansas City defense. You have 3 viable weapons. Can you get at least an honest effort out of Case Keenum? If we take a look at the past couple games for the Denver Broncos, at Baltimore, tough spot to play in. They end up losing that game. We already talked about the Kansas City game at the Jets, one of the worst spots of the season, coming off a loss on Monday Night Football to Kansas City, go on the road, they get beat by the Jets. And oh yeah, they played the Los Angeles Rams to within 3 points, probably the best team in football. Then you shellac Arizona. I think this number is inflated from what people saw last week saying, I'm not getting in front of Kansas City. This is ridiculous. But sometimes you're going to get around double digits inter-division with a team that's already saw you. I think Denver can hang around in this football game. I'm going to look at taking Denver Broncos this weekend.
Wow. Big balls played, Donnie. Thinking about backing these Broncos. Alan Action says, tough to get in the way of the Chiefs covering 7 in a row against the spread this season. 11 in overall dating back to last season. Wow. I didn't realize it hit 11 in overall. Wow. Incredible, Alan Action. Bill Butler says, Travis Kelce gives us the last 4 stat lines versus these Broncos. Says Kelce and Hunt own the Broncos Chiefs all day. And Crypto Boss says Denver can't cover tight ends. What are you thinking about this total here, Donnie, that opened at 55.5 and has now gone down to 53.5.
Yeah, I mean, look, again, it's interdivision, so you always want to lean under, but we're talking about Kansas City here. If Denver can return fire in any shape, they have the weapons that you can really get after the Kansas City defense. You can run the football, and you can pass it with a lot of variable options. It all comes down to what you're actually going to get from Case Keenum. It's hard to take an under with Kansas City. Anytime you see something mid-range in that 50, look, the only reason it didn't cover an astronomical one versus the Chiefs is because Andy Reid just said, look, enough scoring. We can hang 70 on this football team. Just take a knee, run it up the middle, give them the ball back, because Cincinnati had already quit at that point. If Cincinnati doesn't quit in that game and Andy Reid just says, we're going to play it like a normal football game, that covers easily. I don't see that type of thing this week where one team is going to hold off, because there's a lot of bad blood between these two anyway, being division rivals.
Very interesting. Great breakdown. Drew Barron agrees, says sprinkle a little on Denver money line. Says Chiefs are due for a stinker. It's been a long time since we've seen a Chiefs stinker. Eddie Weller saying sunny day in KC forecast, and Sean Pala getting his 420 on. Let's keep rolling. Let's keep rolling. Jets at Bears. Opened Bears minus 5.5. Now, remember, that's at BetOnline. A lot of the other spots opened at 7. There were 7s on the board when we had our show Tuesday. Come Friday, now we have minus 7.5, minus 8. Total opened at 46. There were some 45s. And then come Friday, 43.5 through to 44.5. This total is being bet down. We talked about Darnold struggling against good defenses, and we talked about Marcus May and all the injuries to the Jets secondary on Tuesday. Now let's break it down a little further. Darnold had a season-low passer rating last week against Minnesota, and it wasn't just Minnesota's defense. It's the injuries he's dealing with on the offensive side of things. Number one, wideout Quincy Enunwa will sit out his second straight game with an ankle injury. Robbie Anderson has been unable to practice. Also, their backfield is a mess. Crowell hindered by a foot injury all last week, and Powell suffered a neck injury that could be both or either season-ending or career-ending, put on injured reserve Wednesday. On the other side of the ball, Khalil Mack does not look like himself, has not been practicing because of this troublesome ankle, or at least he was out of practice on Wednesday. And Allen Robinson continues to miss practice time with the groin strain, could sit out a second straight game. The Bears were appealing at 7, a little less appealing at 7.5 or 8. So we talked about these big favorites looking so good this week, especially after I backed the Rams and got the easy score there. I don't want to fire back at it too quickly, but I want to hear your breakdown desperately on this Jets-Bears spot, Donnie.
I think it's pretty easy. One of the nice clear-cut games I think I have a pretty good vision on and what I want to attack it and what the reasons are. If we take a look about the past couple weeks on the road, Jimmy, when we saw Kansas City go into New England, unbeaten, they actually lost the football game. But the vibes were, we're a young team. We just took this team toe-to-toe, and then you go back and play a team in a bad spot like Cincinnati was, and you run them right off the field. Sometimes you have measuring stick losses when you're a younger football team, younger head coach, and you say, you know what? You see what just happened on that football field? We can correct those issues, and we can move forward and be a really good football team. Same thing, a lot of the same things going on with the Bears. Last week, taking a devastating loss to the Miami Dolphins, which you shouldn't have, but again, that's a young team. They were in a tough spot, and we like the Dolphins is what we talked about that week. Flip it over to the following week. You're at home in a game that you're in wire to wire with the New England Patriots. Take away some ridiculous type plays. I'm talking a punt return, a blocked punt return for a touchdown, and a kickoff return for a touchdown. The Bears are up double digits in this football game before a kick returner takes one back to the house to tighten it up. And we all saw how the game ended. 1 yard away. You could have tied it up, went to overtime. It just didn't happen for them. This is one of those games where you go, you know what, guys? We clean up those special teams mistakes. We knock off the New England Patriots. Let's get it corrected. Now take a look at the Jets' perspective. Last week at home, we said, you know what? How are the Jets going to move the football? Banged up already with injuries, down wide receivers. Their last hope is Robbie Anderson, right? And wide receiver, big play guy, but he's going to go up against a decent secondary. Maybe Xavier Rhodes back there would shadow him. Fast forward that game, Minnesota blows them out. Now you're going to take that home team going on the road in a tough environment. And what don't you like about the New York Jets now? Oh, yeah, Bilal Powell's out for the year, one of your bell cow running backs. And say, hey, that's all right. Sam Darnold's a rookie. He's going on the road. He has some help. What help? Rashard Matthews at wide receiver now? Robbie Anderson's not going to play in this game. If you're going to come with a rookie quarterback on the road against a team that I already think is better than you, where are your points coming from in this instance? And what are you playing for? The Bears let one get away last week and lost 2 in a row. They are loaded quote unquote, for bear in this game. It's the Bears or nobody. I don't see the Jets putting up too much of a fight here. I think the Bears win this one by double digits.
It sounds like you would prefer the Jets team total under over the full game under. Is that fair for me to say?
The under, are you saying?
The Jets team total under might be a preferred option rather than the full game under, just in case, due to the secondary issues with the Jets, that the Bears put up 30.
Exactly. I don't see, they don't have the components out there. Like when you saw how New England moves the football. Well, New England moves the football because they have good wide receivers and the best quarterback of all time. How did the Miami Dolphins and Brock Osweiler move the football? 3-yard slant passes where their little, water bugs took it to the house 75 or 80 yards in that game. That's not what the Jets do. The Jets are going to try to line up, and I think it's going to be very windy at Soldier Field this weekend as well, and try to run the football, but their passing game is not going to be there. They don't have any components that you can actually work off of. If your top 3 or 4 receivers aren't even going to play in this football game and you're signing guys off the street, that's not a good look. And you still have a rookie quarterback, and coming into the season, the Jets weren't supposed to be much anyway. So it's going to be Bears or nothing. I don't know how much the Jets score, but one of those games that you can easily see, what, Jimmy, maybe 27-14, some in that range, 27-10. That's what I think this game can turn out to be here.
I like that breakdown quite a bit. I'm now sold on 2 different plays here, the Jets team total under and the Bears. Great breakdown, Donnie. Like it very, very much. Angelo says Burton was huge against the Pats. I think he will destroy New York. Darnold isn't able to put up points against elite defense like against my Vikings. I think that's a great point, Angelos. Let's move on to Redskins at Giants. Very confusing, Donnie. Extremely confusing. Open at -1 Redskins. Now it's a split line. Some books have the Giants favored, some have the Redskins favored. The total opened at 42. I thought the under was very interesting. And then we have 43.5s and 44s. Redskins are a middle-of-the-pack team, but they are leading this division. Was Eli Apple a cancer in the dressing room? We talked about that from a New York point of view. I find it shocking that this Giants team can get rid of Snacks, Damon Harrison, and Eli Apple and have money coming in on them. Is it because the Skins have lost 10 of their last 11 visits to MetLife? Because other than that, I don't see how or why this is happening. Now, Manning is coming off his most productive game stat-wise of the season, 399 yards. Beckham and Shepard each went over 100 yards. Barkley failed to get to 100 yards, and he faces a defense that ranks 3rd against the run at 87.3 yards per game. And I was all over this Redskins team against the Cowboys last week. I know I got fortunate at the end of the game, but I just thought that Jonathan Allen, Daron Payne were going to be able to eat up Zeke. I feel sort of the same thing, although Saquon Barkley's a little more multidimensional than Zeke. But I'm very confused here, and I hope you can clear some of this up for me. Redskins at Giants, Donnie.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And look, these are the type of games where the NFL, they separate your money from you. And I'm going to tell you straight up here, just from doing this a long time, don't bet the Redskins. And I'm not telling you to bet the Giants. These are the games that they set you up. They're so easy. 88% or whatever the public is lining up. Take my money on the Redskins, but yet that line goes in reverse to the Giants as a favorite. So if we're looking at this game, what do the Redskins do well? They play close games versus everybody, it seems like, and pull it out at the end. They're a very poor offensive team. They have a good offensive line when it's healthy. Absolutely. They have nothing at wide receiver whatsoever. For some reason, they can't get Jordan Reed involved enough as a tight end. When you look in the backfield, Adrian Peterson, 60 years old, and has like 17 different injuries and trying to gut it out. We'll see if you get Thompson back for this football game. And I hear you on the Giants side, waving the white flag. Snacks Harrison's gone. Ogletree's not going to play in this game. You trade away Eli Apple in this one. But the one thing the Giants are going to be able to do in this game is score. The one thing that Washington struggles with is what, Jimmy? To score the football. If we take a look and say, well, what's Washington done this year? They went on the road game 1 and played one of the more horrific offenses maybe in the history of the NFL lined up with the Buffalo Bills this year. Those are the Arizona Cardinals. Congratulations, you beat that football team. Then you went on the road against a team that can pass the football a little bit in the New Orleans Saints, and you got eviscerated and weren't even in that football game. Now you're going to go on the road to play the New York Giants, which, correct me if I'm wrong, every time it seems like the Washington Redskins go to play the Giants, they get flatlined up there in the Meadowlands. What's going to be the difference in this football game? You're going to have a decent pass rush. Your line stinks for the Giants. I hear that there. but you're going to have to score points. You're going to be in probably a little bit windier conditions. You have the ultimate dink and dunk quarterback on one side with Alex Smith. He's going to try to make plays with his feet. They looked horrible versus Dallas last week. The week before that, yeah, they got out. They had a couple turnovers against Carolina. They almost lost that football game. Got shelled versus New Orleans. They also lost to Indianapolis. Played a nice game in the rain versus a one-legged Aaron Rodgers, which Green Bay is awful on the road as is. This is a rested team at home in Washington that you should be playing at home. On the road, a completely different story. 88% of the money lining up on one side. Role reversal in this one. And the reason being, the Redskins can't score. And that's going to be a problem this one. It might be close. Maybe the Redskins do win. But I'm only trying to back the New York Giants in this football game as opposed to taking the Redskins.
Wow. Wild, wild stuff. Eddie Euler says, I'm a Giants fan and I'm on Redskins. And then he says, Donnie is right. Classic setup game.
It's the perfect setup game. Look, there's other games out there. If you like the Redskins, there's other games out there. Just move on. There's many other spots that you can take into than betting into a situation like this that's only going to get you hurt. And I'm not even saying taking the Giants. I'm just saying everybody sees the writing on the wall in this game. There's much better spots out there, folks.
Wow. What a wild, wild situation. Very, very uncomforting. But I hear exactly what you're saying. And any feel on that total that I like the under at 42 and the market is betted up to 44.
It's an interesting one over-under-wise. I mean, we're getting a nor'easter that's going to be whipping up the coast. It should be clear, but it's always windy in the Meadowlands as is. 42.5 in this one. I mean, the Giants don't play great defense, but the Giants should be able to score. It's a tough one. It's a pass for me until I see it, because I don't want to be the one that caught where it's a little rainy and windy. I'm saying, look, what the hell am I doing taking a total in this environment? So,
wow, sounds like a complete stay-off game, and that's what Marco Lou writes in capital letters. I am not on this game. Well, without further ado, let's invite the man that looks cooler and cooler every time he is on our show. My God, you are looking good, Whale Capper. Where the hell are you?
Oh, man. Tuning in live from beautiful Waikiki, sitting out here on my on the lanai, looking at the water. I got a kick out of Donnie calling the water bug running backs there. That was a nice little Philly throwback. But yeah, no, it's beautiful, and surf's been up this week in Hawaii, and got a chance to go out this morning, and now listening to some awesome football talk, because there's some great games this weekend, guys.
Yeah, I'm coming off a big boy weekend myself. 9-2. Felt really goddamn good, Whale Capper. I was pumping my fist all Sunday long, Whale Capper. But we are very excited to have you join us. Do you have any notes or any thoughts on the first games? We're almost through the 1 o'clock games right now. We will be starting up with the next up. We'll Seahawks-Lions.
Strong agree with you guys again on most of your takes. I ended up playing that over in the Giants-Redskins game. I like that look a lot. I got it at 42 or 42.5, I think. I didn't realize it had taken so much steam already this morning, but that felt about 5 points too short for me. I'm capping that one. Giants 24, Redskins 23, so 47-ish points. I like the full game under in the Bears-Jets. Yeah, I'm with you guys. I liked your breakdown of the Jets and the Bears. I'm on the full game under there. I'm capping that one at like 24-17 or something like that. But yeah, it's we're on the same page with a lot of things again, which hopefully is a good sign. It was a good sign last week, and we'll get some wins this week out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. We're very thankful to have you. Thank you for joining us from beautiful Hawaii. Let's start with the Seahawks at Lions. This is the first play that I have made. I've also we have a parlay show that I do with Lodal's Low Shack, and I've hit 2 parlays in a row, 2 weeks in a row, going for 3 in a row, but I'm taking a bigger plus 660 spot here. This is one of my plays officially on my show. Also, I've cheated the total down to 45 for my 6-game parlay, but I like the over here, Seahawks at Lions. The total opened at 49. There were some 49.5s and some 50s on Tuesday. No more 50s. It's actually going down. You can get anywhere between 49.5 and 48.5. Seahawks are coming off a bye. Both teams have been impressive of late due to the strong running games. Seattle's defense has also made a dramatic improvement which has caught me by surprise. They allowed just 33 points in their 3 wins. Now they held this porous Raiders team to 3 points. Maybe we can put a line through that one. But they've held 4 of their last 5 opponents to fewer than 200 yards passing. After struggling on the road in losses at Denver and Chicago, Seahawks have averaged 157 yards rushing over the past 4 games. That's impressive. Their offensive line has been fortified by the return of DJ Fluker. Detroit also thriving on the ground. Kerryon Johnson, LeGarrette Blount, Kerryon doing a hell of a job. Johnson, second-round pick out of Auburn, 158 yards on just 19 carries. Blount gave him 50 yards too. Stafford doesn't have to put video game numbers up, and he looks excellent when he does that. Doesn't have to do that. Detroit also has Snacks joining them. I'm not sure how big of a role he will play. Yais immediately says, don't like the over. Both teams will just run and dink and dunk. Why don't we start with you, Whale Capper? Open Lions -2.5. Now it's Lions -3 across the board, and I'm on the over. Can't wait to hear your breakdown.
I'm on the over also. This is the second game in Detroit where I bet an over early in the week, and it's gone the other way. The last time this happened was the Green Bay game, and that one, there was a no doubt over the whole way, even though it took like a last second field goal to actually take it over the total in that one. And I don't really understand who's lining up to back and under with these two passing offenses. Seattle's defense, I think you mentioned about put a line through that Raiders game. Yeah, absolutely. They made Derek Carr cry for crying out loud. That's not a fair representation of the Seattle defense. I think the defense in general has benefited from playing some pretty weak opponents. We saw what happened when they went up against a legit offense in the Rams. They gave up, they gave up felt like they gave up a scoring drive every time the Rams had the ball. They could have ended up with more. I think they had a red zone turnover in that one, or a 4th and goal stop. I don't remember. But the Seattle defense, I don't think is as good as the recent results would suggest. Even though we've seen Kerryon Johnson emerge for Detroit, this is still an offense that likes to run 3 and 4 wide receivers out regularly and chuck the ball and move, makes plays in chunks. Matt Stafford is really, really throwing 11 to 20 yard range, which is, the key range you need to be completing passes if you're going to be winning games in the NFL. So I think the Lions get into the 30s here, and then it's a matter of just how many magical plays Russell Wilson can make, and if he can keep Seattle in this game. I think they get into the 20s, and this gets over 50 without really much of a sweat.
I like that. The sound of that. Yais does not. He says this game ain't going over. Donnie, can't wait to hear your break. So sorry, just 1 second. Whale Capper, are you saying that you're also on the Lions?
I'm not, but if I had to take a side, that's where I would lean.
Okay. Donnie, can't wait to hear your breakdown. Seahawks at Lions.
Yeah, on Wednesday, we do the roundtable, me, Ian, Drew, and Big Man on Campus, and my play of the week was the over in the Detroit game. There's a lot of components. Styles make fights here, and the one thing you need to have is an active participant. If you're going to slow the football game down with Seattle, they're going to play a slower game. Like, you look at most of their games out there, but when they have to return fire like they needed to in the Rams game, they can do that. The best part about this football game for the Detroit Lions, they're going to deploy 3 wides. They have 3 talented wide receivers. And, oh, yeah, finally a legitimate running back that you can just run play action off and nobody laughs at and says, you guys haven't run for 100 yards since 1981. Now you actually have that component in with a gunslinger, a quarterback. That's going to add up. Now here, KJ Wright's coming back on defense. He's a linebacker. When's the last time a linebacker covered a wide receiver? Not going to happen. And, oh, yeah, Detroit gets Snacks Harrison back. When's the last time Snacks Harrison covered a wide receiver? That's actually good if you're taking a look at both teams there, because if you can stop the run, that only opens up the passing advantage even more. Both secondaries are suspects. Seattle, that's how you attack that team, is go after the secondary, not run the ball up the middle or run read option. You want to get vertical versus that team. Both of these teams, as long as Seattle can be engaged, because if you say Seattle, we want to play 10-3 type ball, they'll return that and say, you know what, we're down with that as well. And you're right, the Oakland game, take that out. If we take a look just from a Detroit Lions perspective, let's look at their games on offense. This is an average game. 27 versus San Francisco, 26 versus New England, 24 versus the Dallas Cowboys, 31 versus Green Bay, 32 versus the Miami Dolphins. If they're going to score, Seattle will return fire and make plays there. The components that are coming back and getting healthy on defense have no bearing on the passing game whatsoever. I agree. I like the total in this game more than the side.
Oh, I like that. All three of us on the same side. But Yayas has been joined by Tomarino Tomor, who says Detroit is running more. If Detroit gets ahead, I think they'd run. I'd lean under. Let's move on to the next total that I jumped on, and that was the Buccaneers at Bengals. I have over 54. I am also very interested in the Bengals, but I've held off at this point. This line opened at -5.5 on Tuesday. There were 4.5s and 4s. Now come Friday, -3.5s. Money coming in on the Bucs. That total opened up at 53.5. On Tuesday, there were 54s and 54.5s. Now it's almost completely 54.5s. Bengals coming off an embarrassing loss. Tampa's defense is bad. Now Mixon does not look very good. He doesn't really look like he looked at all what he was doing in the beginning of the year. That knee injury seems to have affected him. We talked about Vontae's perfect. You mentioned, Donnie, how he has this hip issue, and he looks slow out there. The momentum from a 4-1 start is gone. The Bengals looked awful against the Chiefs. 239 total yards, 1 touchdown on offense, gave up 551. They look bad. I don't actually think that, I know that Eifert's a hell of a player, but he's been hurt nonstop over the last little while. And Giovanni Bernard, maybe he helps a bit, but I don't blame those two guys as the reason why they couldn't move the ball in Arrowhead. AJ Green still got 117 yards, but Boyd was quiet. And Ross is looks like he'll be out a long time with the groin injury. The Buccaneers lead the NFL in total yards, 449.5, and passing yards at 376.8. But Winston, you can't trust him. Threw 2 picks, lost a fumble last week, still managed to lead his team to a win. Let's start with you, Donnie, right side. Buccaneers at Bengals.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you're trying to take these games, you're heading into a little bit more, not so nice weather that we would have had some setups in September, but it doesn't look like it's going to be too bad in Cincinnati, Jimmy. We're going to get double-digit wins, which is the norm for this type of year, but you might get mid-50s, which is good from a Southern team looking to head up north. What do you like about Cincinnati's defense right now? They're going to bring the pain. I heard a lot of people saying last week, Cincinnati's going to slow down Kansas City. They got run right off the field and they quit. Now you're going to be down a cornerback. Now you're down both of your top linebackers in this football game. And the one thing we know, Tampa Bay is going to score. They're going to score in a lot of good football team defenses, and this isn't one of them. And how do you attack the team for Tampa Bay defensively? You need a big-time wide receiver. Check. You got A.J. Green out there. You need a decent running game that can keep that secondary off balance. You should have that another week healthier for Mixon. We'll see if he can get it going. But who's playing defense out here? Tampa Bay is already a horrific defense. Now you're going to be down like your top 3 pass rushers. Gerald McCoy's not going to play. Quan Alexander goes down last week. There are no playmakers back there. If Andy Dalton can't get into the high 20s in this game versus Tampa Bay, they have no business playing football anymore in Cincinnati. And like I said before, Tampa Bay can be beaten deep. A.J. Green can do it, but Tampa Bay is going to score on every football team in the NFL. It's just what they do. The weapons are there, and now you have a downgraded Cincinnati team that got roasted last week and are set up to get roasted again. Over seems like a decent play here.
I like it as well. Donnie, you have a move on his side. Marco Luz says Bengals. Ziggy Balls, Bengals. Tomor, I like the Bengals. Underdog says Cincy will bounce back. And then my man Yaya says Bengals 34 points per game with Eifert, 16 points per game without him. Bucks win. What do you think on the side here, Donnie?
Actually, I don't have a great opinion on side. I mean, I see it opened up at 6 at Pinnacle, 4.5 has dropped to 3.5. It's one of those games where I can see it go both ways, so I wouldn't want to step out there and say, hey, man, really like Tampa in this spot because their defense is horrific. And where is the head of Cincinnati at this point after getting shellacked last week and even more injured this week? I'm going to stay away from the side. I don't want to lean anybody wrong in the wrong direction there.
Okay, interesting. Makes me uncomfortable, too. That's why I haven't pulled the trigger on the Bengals yet. Can't wait to hear your breakdown, Whale Capper.
Well, this was the easiest one on the card to scratch off entirely from my perspective. So maybe you're not that excited to hear what I have to say. I guess I when I saw the line open, I was like, oh, that's too many points. Like maybe the Bucs are probably the right side here. But then you think about it some more, and it's like their defense is so bad. They lose Quan Alexander on top of that. And it's like, I guess if you are feeling like the Bucs are the right side, just play them on the money line because you could get a situation where they score early and they look confident and they're playing a little bit, playing with some house money. And maybe Cincinnati quits again because, Cincinnati's defense is super fraudulent. That performance against Kansas City, while it was what we expected to see, it was I guess it just kind of tells you that Cincinnati's they're 7-9 to 9-7 type of team this season, and they may get a couple more wins here as the season goes on. But they're lacking identity. Andy Dalton is not a quarterback who is so good that when he's at home getting relatively short line, you got to run to the window and get a ticket. So I would lean maybe in the direction of the over as well, but 54 is awfully high. And you're going to need probably some defensive, turnovers, some short fields, something to help you get that into the mid 50s if you're taking the over. So it's an easy skip for me. And but if I had to look for anything in that game, I'd probably look for Bucks on the money line because there's probably still a little bit of value there.
Yeah, Scotty Rock saying whole game going over. Nutflush Allen saying first half over looks like easy money. I guess even though a bunch of our cappers on the chat like the Bengals, hearing both you guys wanting nothing to do with a side here makes me think that I should do the same. I'm already in on the over. This is one of my parlay plays too, but I cheated this over down to 49 for my parlay. Let's keep rolling along right now. We have Ravens at Panthers. When this line came out, and on Tuesday I said, Donnie, is this disrespectful to the Panthers coming off that extraordinary comeback? Opened at a pick'em. On Tuesday it was Ravens -2. Now there's -2.5, even -3s for the Ravens. Very interesting. Newton passed for 269 yards, a pair of TDs, rushed for 49 yards, and in that last 15 minutes he threw for 201 yards in that last fourth quarter alone with that hurry-up offense. Olsen was better pretty much as a decoy, although he did come up with one big catch, and he gets Funchess more room. Baltimore, too, gave up 17 fourth-quarter points to the Saints, but they still allow the fewest yards and fewest points in the league. The focus for the Ravens will be containing Newton, who feels like when he wants to turn it on, he is capable of doing that. But both ground games are struggling. Christian McCaffrey is not looking good with the ball in his hand. He's not a between tackles rusher. Is looking good from a reception point of view. Alex Collins looks terrible right now. Flacco is throwing the ball pretty well, 5th in the NFL with 2,067 yards. John Brown caught 28 passes for 558 yards, looking good. This is a tough spot. I was leaning under on Tuesday, and I'm not sure if I'm going to pull the trigger at this point. Why don't we start with you, Whale Capper? Ravens at Panthers. Is this disrespectful to the Carolina Panthers?
Well, I think everything you broke down was correct, but you missed a key angle here, and I think it explains all of the line movement, and that's Cam Newton's right shoulder. Clearly, somebody who's close to that franchise knows how serious that injury is, and information was kind of leaking out, and people were placing bets on that information. His shoulder is not 100%. It's tough to say if it's an acute injury or if it's just overuse or something. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see a pretty conservative game plan here from the Panthers. And when you're going up against a top-tier defense like the Ravens are going to trot out there, this looks like no way. I'm not interested in anything to do with the Panthers ticket in this one. I could still say there's probably a little bit of value on the Ravens, but are you really willing to count on road Flacco against a defense that still has some pretty impressive pieces, and trust that Flacco doesn't throw interceptions? He doesn't turn over the ball so much that takes you out of this game if you're looking for a Ravens cover. Under's probably the right look here. The Ravens have been a dead under team now three weeks in a row since they got Jimmy Smith back at cornerback. They've been unbelievably strong defensively. C.J. Mosley is really, he's kind of the linchpin of that whole unit. He's playing at a top level right now. They're getting some nice pass rush. They have a nice matchup in the pass rush against an offensive line that absolutely stinks in Carolina. So under's probably still an okay look. It's really deflated relative to what we've been seeing with some of these other Ravens totals in the high 40s, low 50s the last couple of weeks. But and I think really just the fact that it's that low and the potential that Flacco does something dumb like throw a pick six or something like that is really what kept me off of this one. But I'm going to be watching the news and reports on Cam Newton's shoulder injury pretty closely over the next couple days. And if it turns out that this is for real and not just smoke, then I might get involved in the Ravens.
Very interesting. Can't wait to hear your breakdown on this game, Donnie. Ravens at Panthers. Whale Capper and I both leaning towards the under, but not sure if we should make a move. What do you think here, Donnie?
Yeah, to me, the game leans more of an under than an over just because styles make fights out there. You don't see the high wire act out of Carolina, especially not in the first half or first 3 quarters of games. It took a miracle comeback versus the Washington Redskins that almost got there, and then took another miracle comeback which actually got there versus the Philadelphia Eagles. So I see a slower down game plan. You're right. When you're betting teams with a quarterback, you want to dip into that same type of thing with the Miami Dolphins. Say, hey, it's his throwing shoulder, but he should be okay for this one. Cam Newton's a big bruising quarterback. He needs to run the football for that team to be effective. He needs to go for 25-yard runs at times and put his head down on 3rd and 1 and 3rd and 2 like he does so many times to get first downs. Maybe he's more hesitant in that type of situation. Maybe somebody gives him one of those good old body splashes that we see in the NFL these days, and all it takes is one hit to your throwing shoulder, and that's going to downgrade the entire offensive game plan. This game has a lot of feel to a couple weeks ago that we talked, Jimmy, on Tuesday about the Tennessee Titans game where it was a pick'em game. All of a sudden it rose to -3, and the Ravens go out there and wash them 21-0. Now, look, I always like the Panthers much, much better at home than I do on the road, but I think you're getting a lot more fallacy the last couple weeks out of Carolina than good. Like, yes, okay, they came back and almost won against the Washington Redskins. They were outplayed for 3.5 quarters in that game. Same thing with the Philadelphia Eagles game where they let them through the back door. The Ravens, if you want to back the Ravens, you love the fact last week they lost an extra point at home. So they're going to be on their P's and Q's this week. And you love the fact that the Carolina Panthers take that sigh of relief. Whew! We couldn't lose 2 in a row. That was a big win versus Philadelphia. Let's go home. So you're in a right spot with the Ravens, but I can't put my money on a quarterback who may or may not be banged up on his throwing shoulder.
Yeah, it is dodgy. Ziggy Balls leans Ravens. DT Doug says Carolina's gone over last 9 of 15. The over is the play. Theodore McIntosh talking about Newton being the streakiest quarterback in the NFL. Tomor leans Carolina +2. He says he doesn't trust Baltimore on the road with no running game. I'm not betting the game, but I'd lean Carolina. Allen Action, Panthers at home. As home dogs look good, but the Ravens off a loss have been a good wager. Angelo saying Panthers' last home loss was Week 6, 2017. They're a different team at home, but Baltimore always scares him. This is a tough spot. And I believe my man DT said what was hoping. Yeah, he's hoping. Where is it? He's hoping that y'all go ahead and fade the Panthers. I will greatly appreciate it. So sounds like with a gray area around Newton's shoulder, you guys both need to gather more information before you make a sound move on this game. Is that correct?
Yeah, not high on my board for me on this one out. Yeah.
I hear you guys. So that is the second game that we've talked about that's you guys have really wanted to stay away from, or the third game, including the Giants-Redskins. I am going to ask you about that Giants-Redskins game, Whale Capper. I find it extremely interesting. I will ask you about that as soon as actually, why don't we do it now? Just quickly, I know we don't have a ton of time, but this game is just wildly interesting. And when the market makes moves that don't really follow what's happening roster-wise, I find it extremely interesting. What do you think of the Redskins-Giants, Whale Capper?
I like the over in that one. If I had to take a side, I'd probably lean the Giants because the Redskins have this bizarre inability to come out and play well 2 weeks in a row. But it's a pretty weak lean in favor of the Giants because that locker room and that whole team, with their kind of deconstructing, they're trading pieces, and there's still a lot of kind of uncertainty and anger over the way Eli's playing. It's not a super confident look, but I do think the total is about 5 points too low. So give me over 42.5 or 42. I can't remember which I played, but that I think is maybe one of my more confident looks of the week. Actually, that over.
Wow, very interesting. Thanks for that insight. Let's move on to another. God, there's so many games with so many underlying stories. This is another one, and I've already made a move, and still the market is juiced the other way now. I'm on the Colts I got a -3 at -105 at the Raiders. I could get a plus spot now on the -3 line. The total opened at 51. On Tuesday, there were 50s and 49.5s. It's back up to 50.5 across the board. Raiders coming off a bye, but what an absolute mess. What Gruden is doing is so confusing. It's so arrogant and ignorant and conceited, and he's just an asshole. What he wants to do is just knock this team down and then bring it up with first-round draft picks and look like a genius. What a dick. Raiders coming off a bye week where they let another guy leave the team. Now, I've been reading stuff from Carr, who there was a rumor going around that he didn't want to be there. If you read his Twitter posts, he does claim that he's Raider Nation, do or die, and wants to be here. Let's talk about the Colts for a second. Going to get Jack Doyle back. That's a big deal. Caught 80 passes last season and was a Pro Bowler. Also, T.Y. Hilton was noticeable against the Bills. Colts, Andrew Luck didn't have to put up video game numbers just like Stafford because this running game is rolling with Mack. He went for 126 yards, 6.1 yards per carry. The Colts defense showed a bunch of improvement against the Bills, but maybe we should just put a line through that because there was a quarterback that they found at the corner out front of a 7-Eleven that they brought in for that game. Saying that, Oakland, 28th in the league in scoring offense, 29th in scoring defense. They've had an extra week to get their shit together. They have no Marshawn Lynch. Doug Martin is awful. I don't think he can do the job. Why is the market kind of moving in the favor of the Raiders? I am confused by this. Why don't we start? Oh, and another new kicker for these guys. What the hell does Gruden have against these kickers? What an asshole. Donnie, what do you have to say about this spot here? I am confused again by the market movement. Colts at Raiders.
Yeah, it opens up as a pick 'em, and then you just see the systematic destruction of Oakland from within the clubhouse itself and also trading players away. But when you get down to the crux of it, they really didn't use Marshawn Lynch the way they should have. And, you know, whether it's first and goal from the one, you're throwing horrible passes for your quarterback, Derek Carr. And then you're looking at Amari Cooper, who you didn't use him that well at wide receiver as is. Both of those two guys are gone. The bigger problem is not losing those two guys. Like, you're at home, you're off the bye, you're now getting points. What's not to like? You know, the Colts aren't the greatest team in the world traveling outside the dome. But where is your head at if you're the Oakland Raiders? And you saw everything in there. Like, John Gruden comes out with the comment, nobody else is going to get traded from here on out. Everybody on that team is up for sale, whether it be Carl Joseph, whether it be a cornerback. And it's the makeup of this game with Gruden coming in. He knows he's going to be there for 10 years because the Raiders are cash poor and there's no way they're going to pay him out, 2 years into a $100 million contract. And he knows he has everybody over a barrel. So you see the reports coming out of the locker room saying, you know what? Time to play for ourselves, man. I'm just looking to be healthy by the end of the year. Maybe I get traded, maybe I don't. That's the worst type of scenario to bet into. I don't care if you're coming off of a 2-week bye and you're at home in front of your fans who, quote unquote, don't care about you anymore because you're looking to go to San Diego next year before you're on the way to Las Vegas. So how much of a raucous home atmosphere are you going to get after being shelled the past couple weeks? I can't take the Oakland Raiders. I love to take a team that we're looking at saying, hey, the public's loading up on Indianapolis. I got a nice live home dog. I don't have a nice live home dog when the quarterback is getting questioned by anonymous reports in the locker room if he's even a team leader and he's crying to even care about him. It's an amazing story for the Raiders of what they've been through. I want no piece of the Raiders. It would only be Indianapolis for me, just on the locker room itself.
That makes a lot of sense to me. Underdog says, yes, Jimmy. Colts fade Oakland. Tomor says, I think the value in the Raiders-Colts is on the over. Neither team plays defense. Colts defense is overrated because they look good against this quarterback they found in front of a Starbucks begging for change. Let's hear what you have to say about this, Whale Capper.
Well, I fully agree with your characterization of Gruden. What an asshole. Like, to come into this organization, take $100 million, decide not to pay Mac, flip him for a couple first-round picks. I guess credit to him for, swindling the first he swindled the Raiders by getting a $100 million contract. Then he swindled the Cowboys by getting a first-round pick for Amari Cooper. So he's on a roll, just out there picking people's pockets. But the writing is on the wall as far as I can tell you that he does not like Derek Carr. I think that it's pretty clear the way I see things and the way that they structured his contract, that they're going to cut Carr this offseason. I think the rest of the teams in the league know that, which is why the trade market for Carr is not very warm right now. And so they're, that's kind of one of the major pieces of kind of friction and internal struggle that's going on in the Raiders locker room, because Carr's now sitting here like, I need to do something to make sure that I get picked up by a team and get another chance at a starting gig next year when the Raiders cut me. And the rest of the team is like, hey, we're not going to play for you because you stink, and you ruined our season, and now we gotta, we got a whole wasted season here, and that there's really nothing at all inspiring about wanting to back the Raiders this week or really any week for the rest of the season. And I think the play's probably Indianapolis. It was Indianapolis off the open on the pick 'em. That was like too good to be true kind of line on Sunday night when that one popped. But even at 3, I think there's still value in Indianapolis. They probably win by 6 or 7, if not, just win going away here. The Indianapolis Colts are a team that I think people are not seeing, not appropriately seeing how good they are and how live they are to win the AFC South. I think even as recently as like this week or last week, they were still like 20-1 or something to win the South. They're not that far off the Texans. We know Deshaun Watson's dealing with some injuries, and he's a fragile quarterback as it is. I really think that division will come down to Colts and Texans, and if the Colts can string together a couple more wins with a really easy schedule here, I think they're absolutely live in the South, which is interesting because never would have got that opinion out of me preseason whatsoever. I thought this roster was garbage, but I really like what this coach, former Eagles guy, Reich, he's doing some great stuff, man. I'm kind of believing in this team. I'm believing in Luck. He's throwing the ball extremely well. Yes, their defense has holes. They specifically cannot cover middle deep to deep passing is where they struggle the most. Derek Carr is not making those passes. Derek Carr is struggling with confidence throwing, middle distance, and he's just check down like regular check down. Like you look at his passing targets that he had against Seattle, and I think he threw one ball farther than more than 5 yards down the field. So for me, Derek Carr and the Raiders are an easy fade for the next couple weeks until they make some sort of move, or the market starts treating them like the Bills, where they're getting double-digit point spreads against teams that they can compete against. So Colts in this one is a good look. Over is a decent look, but over is probably a stay away because you could see another Raiders put up 3 or 10 points or something crazy. So let's see the Colts continue to put together wins here and really make a case to get frisky in the AFC South. Yeah,
I really like your call on the Colts being live in the South. That's a very interesting spot at a huge line. Great call there. And back to this Colts defense, I've been so impressed with Darius Leonard. What a find. You're right. When we looked at this roster at the beginning, especially their defense, we're like, what a mess. But guys like Darius Leonard popping out of nowhere, making the Colts for real. And Big Ragu, my man, Big Ragu, he sends us videos every Friday. He's 10-3-1 on those videos, all football, college, and NFL. Says, watch out for the Texans in the South. They're really live going forward. But I like the point you made, Whale Capper, when you said that Watson could get hurt any minute. He could be out of action at any time and make your Colts play very, very live. Very interesting stuff. I like that breakdown very much. And I also think you're right about the over. The reason why the question mark to me is beside it is because what if the Raiders get completely shut down? Donnie, did you have any take on the over right now? It's 50.5 across the board.
I actually you would have to lean towards the over because you don't think you're going to get very much defense out of Oakland. They were embarrassed last week, didn't show anything on offense. And even though John Gruden, look, you're an NFL coach, you're going to be prideful. Marshawn Lynch and Amari Cooper, they're not going to do anything on offense. And the pressure's off in Oakland now, right? Maybe you go for it more. And if you're looking, I bang on analytics all the time. But when I like analytics? When I need to hit an over-under. Because Frank Reich at the 50-yard line on 4th and 1, he ain't punting it down to the 5. He's going for that at midfield. That's great for the over-under. So, look, you're more likely not to get stops out of Oakland. We know Andrew Luck's got a live arm and he can push the football downfield. T.Y. Hilton will be activated. And maybe Gruden throws a couple wrinkles in there and says, look, we don't have anything to lose in this game. Let's go for it.
Yeah, I like Great breakdowns on this game. I was very interested to hear what you guys had to say about it. Let's keep rolling along. Whale Capper, I've been told by Scotty Rock in the chat to say what up to you. We've been very impressed with Scotty Rock this week. He hit a 9. It was a 10-team tennis parlay, and he hit 9 and pushed 1 at plus 3,500. We were very impressed, Scotty Rock forever. We know that you have partially paid for this Hawaiian trip through your tennis play, so we wanted you to know about our man Scotty Rock. Let's keep rolling along. This makes me so excited, and I can't wait to hear your breakdown. And I've made this an official play. I still haven't bet it. I probably should. I want to go to you first, Whale Capper. I am heavy believing in this 49ers squad. Speaking of Scotty Rock, he has no belief in this 49ers squad at all. This week he believes in the Cardinals, but I love the Niners here. I felt like their defense didn't play nearly as bad as it looked last week. 4 turnovers, terrible field position. They were holding the Rams to field goals. I'm loving this Beathard-Kittle combo that looked so good at Iowa. I can't believe the Niners got Kittle in the 5th round. Both these teams come in at 1-6, both coming off lopsided losses. But when I look, just simplifying this, I said this to Donnie on Tuesday, I said, the Cardinals look bad against an average team. The Niners look bad against a great team. Arizona fired Mike McCoy after that Denver game. Patrick Peterson says he desperately wants out. He's come back a little bit. Wilkes has brought Byron Leftwich in to replace McCoy. Carolina averaged NFL worst in total yards and rushing yards. Turnovers killed the Niners last week. I always think that when Beathard has a bad game, he goes into the war room with Shanahan and comes out a better quarterback. That's what Shanahan does. Rosen went 10 for 25 with 140 yards against the Niners. David Johnson rushed for 55 yards, and they won by double digits. It was a mirage. I want to take the 49ers here. And let's start with you, Whale Capper. Do you think I'm in the right spot with this feeling?
Yeah, I do. We're sharing a brain on this one. I love the revenge angle here for the 49ers. I think, and I was on the Cardinals that game, and pretty happy to have cashed the ticket on that. Felt like it was a lucky win, not a correct side. And I think the Niners get some revenge here. I think they should be the favorites. I grabbed them on the money line at, I think, maybe like minus 101-ish. I think they win this one pretty comfortably. I would expect it will take several weeks for Byron Leftwich to really kind of figure things out in terms of what kind of offensive coordinator he's going to be. And this is a really nice spot. You are hitting the nail on the head. The San Francisco defense, in conceding as many points as they did against the Rams, actually did pretty well. And I would expect them to really be able to just lock down the Cardinals in this one. And so if we get an average performance out of Beathard, and I think Beathard is probably kind of middle of the NFL type of quarterback talent right now, at least amongst the current starters. Not like if everyone was healthy, he'd probably be in like the 20s range. But given everyone who's currently starting, he's probably middle of the pack. If we get an average performance out of him, the Niners score like 24 points and they win this one pretty comfortably. I could see this being like a 24-6 kind of game. The under's probably a pretty decent look as well, because I think it's going to be really tough for the Cardinals to score points in this one.
Interesting. A lot of different opinions here in the chat. Very exciting game here. Donnie and I talked a tiny bit about having, at least as far as I remember, that we had some interest in the over. I can't wait to hear your breakdown after a few more days of thinking about this game, Donnie. I know these are two 1-6 teams, but I'm really excited about the opportunity of getting a W, and I think we can get one. What do you think, Donnie?
You know what's interesting about this game? I mean, not only that, it's a 4:25 game on the West Coast. I don't think anybody would have been angry, even Arizona fans, if you bumped this to a 1 o'clock game, which made it a damn near a morning game out there. I can't even believe this. Like, when you look at this game on the card, you're like, what the hell is this even doing as an NFL game? But it's one of those things you have to deal with and get through, and we're Capper, so we try to find some value. Do you remember Arizona won the game by double digits, I believe, in the first game, and I don't know if they had 150 yards total on offense, which is how bad it was. The one thing that always makes it interesting, when you change coordinators, whether whether it be defense or offense, you always want to make that splash. So you start doing things a little bit out of the ordinary. Like, hey, you want to go with that double reverse pass right here? It's 4th and 2. Hey, do you want to go for it? Sure, let's go for it. Let me see what he can actually do here. So you're going to get a little bit of a mixed game plan out of the Arizona Cardinals, which if you're looking to take the over, probably isn't a bad thing, because how do you want to make your splash in the NFL as an offensive coordinator? A 10-7 win out there, or, we lost 20-3? No, you're going to do things. You're going to take deep shots down the field. You're going to run wrinkles in your playbook that you usually wouldn't run early in the year, but you're trying to establish yourself as an offensive coordinator. But then again, you're the Arizona Cardinals. Who you throwing to? Who's running the football? And my favorite one is, hey, we're going to get back to using David Johnson like we're Bruce Arians again. Well, Bruce Arians isn't there, so who's going to use David Johnson like you're Bruce Arians? What, you didn't like that idea coming into the season? Now all of a sudden you're a terrible football team, so you're just going to flip it in gear and David Johnson's going to go back to being a 200-yard from scrimmage per game guy? I don't think that's going to take place here. One team you're going to get an honest effort, which I do agree with both of you. The 49ers, to me, I liked them in game one, and for some odd reason that they're going to lose with a team with 150 yards or less, you're going to get a good game plan. You're going to get a quarterback that's not a rookie. You're not going to get a lot of shakeups out here. And the one thing to say about the 49ers, they're playing hard each and every week. They may be outmanned and out-talented, but they have a signal caller over there on the sideline, Kyle Shanahan, that's going to dial up plays that if they can just execute, there will be points to be had. I don't like taking the rookie quarterback. It's a tough game. I probably won't be on it either way. But if I was taking it here, just give me Kyle Shanahan and C.J. Beathard versus a rookie coordinator, basically, and a rookie quarterback matching up, saying, let's just go throw caution to the wind, and we're going to throw it deep all game long.
I agree. And does that move you anywhere to find an angle on the total? It opened at 43, and it's just stayed right there all week.
It's hard to take it. Look, I like to take overs in the NFL that are in the 40s because you just lend yourself to believe that. But just because you change the offensive coordinator, look at those historically bad numbers for Arizona. And we're talking about a game where they got even blown out last week, where you get the junk points in there and you get the junk yardage. They don't even get that. So, look, good luck if you're going to say Arizona's going to score 24 points in this game. They haven't shown that they can even get 24 first downs.
Yeah, I hear that. Whale Capper, do you have any feel on the total?
I would look under here. It's too low for me to really make a play and be confident about it, but maybe team total under for Arizona is a better angle. Who knows? Maybe the Niners absolutely get right in the spot and just unload on this team. It's a controlled environment, so you don't have to worry about weather and nonsense like that. So, maybe Arizona team total under is where you want to look if you don't love the spread or the full game under, I guess.
I hear that. I'm very pumped about the Niners. I went 5-0 and beat the prick. I haven't decided what's my big play or my 2-unit play this week, but the 49ers will be up there. I like them. Underdog agreeing with us. Let's move on to the next game. We have a couple of exciting, or I guess we have two very exciting games until we have to talk about the Monday Nighter. Let's do Packers at Rams. Open Rams -8. Then, since then, it's been a mixed board. -8.5, -9s, -9.5. The total opened at 56.5. Then there were 57s, and it stayed that way. Donnie and I had some interest in the over. I definitely didn't have enough interest to pull the trigger. Packers are coming off a bye, and their defense, I think, will be exposed here. The Rams D is good, and Rodgers is great, even with that knee issue. Rams playing at home for the first time in more than a month. Lead the NFL in total yards. Goff and Gurley are looking very, very good. The Packers are second in total offense. Aaron Rodgers on his gimpy knee will have to avoid Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh. That will not be easy. And Suh is not the issue. Donald is a wrecking machine out there, playing extraordinarily well. The Packers' next 5 games are against teams with an overall mark of 23-10-1. They've gone 3-2-1 against teams with an overall mark of 17-21-1. I don't trust this Packers team. They're going to need more of what Rodgers gave them last game, but that was against the 49ers, not against the Rams. I'm uncomfortable with the side. It's a lot of points, and Rodgers can get that backdoor cover. Scotty Rock Forever saying first half Rams -6.5 is the play, easy money. Tom Marino saying this total should be in the 60s. Anil Frank, Rams 42-21. Anthony L, Packers +8. Why don't we start with you, Whale Capper? Packers at Rams.
So I took the Packers and the points here. Amazing that we're going to get 2 weeks in a row, and I meant to look this up because I've been wondering about it all week. Like, how often in Aaron Rodgers' life has he been a dog of more than a touchdown? And now he's going to be a dog of more than a touchdown 2 weeks in a row. Is crazy. I feel like this is a chance you can't pass up the points. We know that even if this game gets out of hand and the Rams are just completely in control in the first half, that in the second half, Rodgers is just going to be chucking it. And against a Rams defense that I think is a little bit suspect against the pass, I think he can score points here. If you are sure that the Rams are going to score like 40 and that it's going to make it tough for the Packers to stay inside 8.5, then another look might be Packers team total over. It's probably going to be in like the 23.5 range, and that's too low. But a Packers backdoor seems entirely possible. Packers being competitive in this game seems entirely possible. You might even catch the Rams sleeping a little bit. Rams got to go to play the Saints next week. They may be looking at that one like that game's going to decide who gets the 1 seed in the NFC. They may be thinking about that a little bit and not really realizing that you're going up against the best quarterback in the NFL, albeit on a little bit of a gimpy knee. But I love the Packers in the spot, and taking 8.5 points was like almost too good to be true. And if the Rams bury me, then so be it. But it's going to be a ticket that's live until the final whistle. So, would love to see him pull off an upset, to be honest with you. I'd love for a little bit more drama in the NFC, because the AFC looks like it's not shaping up to be particularly interesting. I think we pretty much know what the playoff picture is going to look like in the AFC, but the NFC, still a lot of questions, and Rams taking a loss would be pretty exciting.
I like that breakdown. And Alan Action has your answer here on the chat. Rodgers is 4-0 as a TD or more dog in his career. A lot of guys backing you there, Whale Capper. A lot of guys backing the Packers here. A lot of people liking the over as well. We have another bunch of guys giving us final scores. Gregoire 007, Packers defense not that good. Rams 37, Packers 24. That would hit the over and what you expect to be the Packers team total over. Donnie, this is a very exciting game. I can't wait to watch this. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, I think, early in the season, the Packers obviously injured, most likely their quarterback injured, and fairly severely over the past couple weeks of the season, or first couple weeks of the season. And then you had that same compounding injury where he gets re-injured again, being Aaron Rodgers, but he doesn't have the weapons all around his multitude that he typically has. You get that bye week, so you're going to get a little bit more refreshed Packers team out there. They're going to be able to trade punches with the Los Angeles Rams. The one thing with the Rams that can do so well when they're engaged, if Todd Gurley's running well, which I think he will be versus this Green Bay defense, they're going to go toe-to-toe and be able to air it out, and they're going to get an unlimited amount of points. You just hope that Aaron Rodgers is going to be able to return fire, because you're right. If Aaron Rodgers is still engaged in the second half, and even if it's a 17-point line, he's not giving up. He's going to be throwing darts down the field, and you're not talking about an extremely powerful Rams defense. The only thing that I look here is I don't want my eyes to deceive me, because I think that bye came at a really good time for the Packers because they're an injured team. They haven't shown anything on the season outside of beating a horrific Buffalo offense at home 22-0. They go on the road and get destroyed at Washington. They go and get beat up by Detroit 31-28. That's an 8-point game. The one previous was a 14-point game. They haven't shown anything this year. They should have lost to Chicago opening night. Minnesota should have beat them, a couple blown field goals. I know that was the sack game and Clay Matthews, but when it came down to it, they could have lost that game very easily. 33-30. San Francisco actually thought was the better football team versus the Green Bay Packers, which is wild. But then it all comes down to your mind and say, wait a second now. You're going to give me Aaron Rodgers with more than a touchdown. It's going to take a Rams beating of like 47-21 to get that cover. And you say, well, what are you talking about? That's 26 points. It's only 8.5 or 9. If the Packers are live in the fourth quarter, Aaron Rodgers is going to move the football and be able to score points late when maybe the Rams slow it down at the end of the game. Because if you look, they tend to get bored in some of these games. Take out that 49ers game. Seattle gave them all they can handle. You're looking at how bad the Denver Broncos are. They came back and scored a junk touchdown to make that a 3-point game. It's hard to go against Aaron Rodgers, but I know where the Packers have been this season on the road, just not a good football team, and not a good football team overall. But I'm not ready to say, you know what, Aaron Rodgers is getting 8.5, 9.5 points, that I'm just going to take the Rams blind in this one. I'll stay away, but there will be, as they say, like no old men or whatever in oil, whatever that movie is, there will be points in this one. No country for old men, I'm sorry. There will be points in this one.
I think there will be, too. Red Girl says Rams game will go over. Tomor said Bether dropped nearly 30 on this. Oh, he did drop 30 on this Green Bay defense. Rams will destroy them. He says Packers defense is garbage. My man Quim Rivera says, so tough not to take the Rodgers plus that many points. On the other side, the Rams are so good at almost every side of the ball. Should be a good game. I am very pumped about this game. And another game I'm very pumped about. Great having Anna Merrick in the house with us, a big Vikings backer. Saints at Vikings. Open Vikings -2.5. Then on Tuesdays we had pick'ems. And now the Saints are the favorites. Open at 52. On Tuesday we had 53s, back to 52s, and a couple 52.5s. Saints have been rolling. New Orleans 5-1. 5 straight wins. Capable of another big playoff run. Ranked number 1 in the NFL in rush defense at just 72.3 yards per game. Michael Thomas doing what he does. Alvin Kamara, dual threat. Now they have Ingram back from suspension. Dalvin Cook didn't practice on Wednesday for the Vikings. Still dealing with the hamstring injury. Latavius Murray looks good at home. He'll have to look good. The big note I have here from our show, Donnie, on Tuesday was find out about the defensive back injuries. Who is going to be good? Who is not going to be good? Sendejo still out of the lineup with a groin injury. Xavier Rhodes will likely not be there this week as he deals with an ankle injury. This is a very exciting spot. Donnie, why don't we start with you? Saints at Vikings.
You know what? When I look at this game, I just say, like, I can't imagine what I'm looking at for the New Orleans Saints. When did this team turn into we can shoot it out and then we can get down and dirty and run the football and play a little bit of defense? They are as impressive as it gets from an offensive standpoint. How about Sean Payton? Like, I remember being back in the Philadelphia a couple years ago, where McNabb would get so angry, that Michael Vick would come in and run the Wildcat because he wanted all the shine out here. You're looking at the best passer possibly in the history of the NFL in Drew Brees, who comes off the field in key spots because they want to bring in a quarterback to run some read option and move the chains. Like the offense that they're running down there is like, you know, from 2035 right now for the New Orleans Saints. You want to run the football, we'll run it right down the throat. You want to run read option out here, we'll do it and do it successfully. We want to throw the football downfield, we'll do it as well. And that same injury still creeping up, Jimmy. Xavier Rhodes has to play in this football game, and he has to play well if I'm looking to back the Minnesota Vikings. It's in a dome, plays right in New Orleans. They're a dome team. Is it a tough spot to go into and say, man, they played a tough stretch here, you know? Baltimore on the road. That took a lot out of the football team. Now they're coming in. But it just seems like New Orleans is built for this. Look at every game they've played, you know, taking on Cleveland in a lower scoring game, shooting it out with Atlanta, you know, beating down the Giants on the road, Washington at home, laying them out, and then going on the road down 10 points in the second half and playing very well and winning that football game against a very game Ravens team and a good Ravens team at home. I hate to say it, man. I love home teams in the NFL. I'm leaning towards the New Orleans Saints, and if you're going to give me a banged up or maybe sit it out Xavier Rhodes for this game, I might be on the Saints altogether.
Wow. A lot of people agreeing with you. Scotty Rock forever. Crypto Boss. Ziggy Balls. Tom Marino says Saints haven't played a top passing game since their secondary got hit hard earlier in the year. I think Vikings moved the ball well, idling over. And Teddy B says, Jimmy, Donnie, Whale, I'm telling you right now, Vikings will be ready for this game. Revenge or not, Breeze is 0-2 at US Bank Stadium. I got a good source every single play. That will be huge emotionally for the Vikes. Very interesting spot, Whale Capper. Saints at Vikings. A lot of injury news still needs we still need to gather. We need to figure out what's going on with Griffin. We need to figure out what's going on with Rhodes. What are you thinking here?
I'm looking for the Vikings to pick up the win. I agree with everything that Donnie laid out, and the Saints clearly have pushed all their chips on the table for this season. They've traded away, I think, every draft pick in the 2019 draft to accumulate players and talent. They clearly are looking at this roster. They think they are good enough to compete with the best of the NFL. And they're looking at the current, you know, how Drew Brees is playing, and they're probably like, this is his last shot. So we got to go all in on it. think enough time has passed that you're not really going to get much of a motivational angle for the Saints feeling like they got cheated out of playoff win last year. I'm not a huge revenge guy anyway. And if you can't get up for Sunday Night Football in that dome with that crowd, stay home anyway. I don't think there's going to be any added, motivation for the Saints to exact some revenge here. You could see a little PTSD on the part of the Marcus Williams who missed that one key tackle. He hasn't played nearly as well this year as he did last year. He's going through a little sophomore slump. Marshawn Lattimore clearly is absolutely the real deal. He is an incredible quarterback, and he has a tough matchup taking Diggs out of the game, but I have no clue how they're going to cover Thielen. Thielen looks like he has an absolutely perfect matchup here. Kirk Cousins is slinging the ball extremely well. The Vikings' offensive line, which was their biggest question mark coming into the season, is finally coming together now that they got their center back. And I would expect that the Vikings, like Tom Marino said, they're going to move the ball. They're going to score points. And if they can get one key stop in the fourth quarter of this game, then they're going to get a win. And if you're going to give me plus money on this team to win at home, where they have a legitimate home field advantage, I'll take it. And it's not my strongest play of the week by far. This is kind of a coin flip. But being that it's a pretty important game, and being that I think the Vikings are contenders and are players in the NFC, they're gonna catch the Saints coming off of on their second straight road game here, which I think is going to be a little bit impactful in terms of how the Saints perform. The little things to me add up in favor of the Vikings in this one. I do worry a little bit about Rhodes being out. Clearly, the Vikings defense is not playing as well this year as we expected. And some of that's injury. Some of that is, they're kind of coming back to the, regressing to the mean, so to speak, in their third down stop rate was out of this world. And now it's looking more, it's looking more real. But it's going to be a fantastic game, and Vikings really, they are super scary in that that home field advantage there, and I like them to get a win this week.
Very interesting. Always exciting when you guys are going up against each other. Very exciting. Everybody here in the chat, or not everybody, most of everybody liking the over, the people who are talking about the total. I don't see anybody coming in saying under. Whale Capper, you have a feel on this total?
Boy, it's so high, but I would look over. I think maybe I think that what we saw last week with the Saints versus the Ravens was telling. First quarter of that game, there was no points. What the Saints had, like a 20-play drive. They converted 3 fourth downs, and they got 0 points to start out that game. I had a large play on the under in that one, and I was feeling so good after that first drive with no points. And as soon as the going got tough, last 2 minutes of the first half, it's just boom, touchdown. And then fourth quarter, touchdown. And it was like, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is happening. This game is going to go over. This is ridiculous. And then Justin Tucker misses the extra point to keep that thing from going to overtime, where it certainly would have taken the game over the total. So I feel like I dodged a huge bullet there. So I'm going to stay away from the total on this one and stay away from the Saints totals in general for a little while, because I think that you could see a similar situation playing out here, where the teams feel each other out a little bit in the first quarter, first half even. And then as the game gets into the kind of deciding moments, you could see teams, really kick up. Once their hand is forced and they're going for it on fourth down and they're, getting plays in bigger chunk yardage, you could see some scoring late. So if you're looking for a total play in this one, I would probably look for either a live over if it's a low scoring first quarter, or look for a second half over, because I think both teams are going to be highly incentivized to go for it a lot in the second half of this game, and you're going to see more touchdowns and field goals. So look for later scoring in this one if you're looking at a total play.
I like that. Donnie, what do you think about this total?
Yeah, no, I think it lends itself to go over more than under, because when we're looking at both sides, contrary to the numbers, you wouldn't know New Orleans is very good against the run, because most teams just like to pass on them, and you have weapons. Kirk Cousins can sling it. Both those wide receivers are going to put up numbers regardless of who's defending them back there for the Minnesota Vikings, and vice versa. You got Drew Brees on the other side. That just lends itself to an over just because it's Drew Brees and it's a dome. The thing that's interesting about this game is how much respect that New Orleans gets now. I mean, last week I was a little bit shocked that the Ravens were opening up -2, -2.5 versus a dome team going outdoors with the New Orleans Saints, and now you're looking at this game going back in on the road after a hard-fought victory and having to pick them. Man, they are really respecting the New Orleans Saints, but I don't want any – look, you're taking Drew Brees in a dome and you're going to take the under. Good luck with that. Just check the score. Don't even watch the game and check the score at the end of it because these two teams got weapons, man.
Yeah, I hear you. Great breakdown, guys. That is the Sunday Nighter. And now we come to the Monday Nighter that stars a hobo at quarterback. Let's break this game down because we have to. Now, let me say that the Bills at home, I can't even make this exciting. I'm going to try my best here. One thing is earlier, okay, the open Pats -13. On Tuesday, we had 13.5s and 14s. That's what we have right now. The total has stayed pretty much with the 44 and the 44.5. Yes, the last time the Bills were huge underdogs, they won 29-0. Tom Brady, we talked about on Tuesday, how he could set the record for most wins with 300 yards and 3 TDs at Orchard Park, currently tied with Jim Kelly. What a horrifying stat. Belichick doesn't understand the word mercy, but I haven't jumped on the Patriots. Here. Sure, it looks like it's a simple play. Brady 14-2 in games played in Buffalo. They've been putting up a ton of points. Threw for 3 touchdowns against the Bears last week. The Bills are coming off that horrifying 37-5 loss. The Bills, 81 points, are the fewest in the league heading into Week 10. They have yet to get at least 20 first downs in a game. It's 7 offensive touchdowns through this point, is the worst since 2007. Last week, they lose McCoy, the concussion protocol. If McCoy sits out, it'll be Ivory and Marcus Murphy. The Bills have not won on a Monday night since 1999. Thurman Thomas is having his, this Hall of Fame thing at halftime. At least Bills fans can watch Thurman Thomas and remember the good old days when you could almost win a big game. I don't know what to say about this spot. Very difficult. Why don't we start with you, Donnie, right side? Patriots at Bills.
Yeah, it's a good point you bring up. One win since 1999. They probably only played like 2 times on Monday Night Football because they've been an atrocious franchise for such a long time. It doesn't give them many opportunities to win. But when you look at the game, New England's so banged and beat up. But it just seems if you just roll number 12 out there, you're good for 28 to 30 points. And where are the points coming from for Buffalo? And who even cares anymore? Did they even get excited when Brady comes to town? I mean, he basically owns rent in that stadium for how many wins and how many touchdown passes, and they just clobber the Bills every single time. You see a line at 14 in the NFL for a road team here. Now, look, as I said, New England very banged up in this one. One of those games where it might just be one of those get out of Dodge type situations where you say, you know what? The Bills will be down 17-3 at the half. Brady and them will just take the air out of the football and cruise in the second half, get some of those guys rested. Because where are you coming back with the Bills? Like, who's the quarterback that's going to lead you back? Is Derek Anderson going to lead 5 scoring drives in this game? Is Shady even going to play here? Do they even care that they're playing football anymore for Buffalo? That's a dead team walking versus an injured team. I know Brady's going to be healthy. I know Tom Brady's going to start. They should be good for 21 points in the first half, and that should be enough for a cover because I would be shocked if the Bills get 10 points in the first half. I think New England and Brady at least put up 21.
Yeah, I hear that. And maybe the Patriots' first half is play. We talked about that on Tuesday, and you made the great point saying if the Patriots are rolling first half, well, it's not like Anderson's going to come back and have a late cover, which makes total sense to me. Great point. Let's hear what you have to say about this, Whale Capper. Patriots at Bills Monday night.
Very in here. Bills upset. Bills get the win.
Oh
no, I'm not at all. I'm not
you should have just went with the hot take. It would have been a great cut.
Well, I mean, now if they win, I can just isolate that little 5 seconds, right? I know the right look here is the under. I think the Patriots can probably shut the Bills out in this game. I think the Bills' defense is good. I was surprised that they conceded as many points as they did to Indianapolis last week. A lot of that was fed by short fields. It was, they're on the road as well, and the defense for the Bills plays a little bit better at home. I think you get a pretty decent performance out of this unit for the Buffalo Bills defense, and that's enough to keep the Patriots into like the 24 to 28 point range instead of like well into the 30s here. And I agree with Donnie that the Bills are probably not cracking 10. They could get shut out. You could see. I mean, this could be a classic 31-0. Like we've seen that score a lot between these two teams, and it could be another one of those type of games. Belichick really not any. The fact that this is like a big brother little brother thing where the Patriots just whoop the Bills week in week out is incredible, and that the Bills haven't won a Monday night game since 1999, and that was like I didn't heard that yet, and that is mind blowing. I can't believe that's possible, but sure enough, it's amazing. Some of the people watching probably weren't even around in 1999. So I would say look for an under here. I would say look for a live under if the Patriots score touchdowns in the first couple of drives. If you want to lay 13 points in the Pats, or 14, is it up to 14? If you want to lay 14 points in the Pats, it's not crazy. I laid double digits with the Pats against the Colts earlier this season on Thursday Night Football. And while it covered, it was a little dicey in that second half. There was a couple moments where I thought that thing wasn't coming through. So I think that right there is, that's the only time I'm laying double digits with the Pats this season. Otherwise, that's not a bad look, I guess. But under for me in this one.
Under in this one. Would you prefer the under over the Patriots full game?
I think so. I think the Bills defense is kind of good. They match up well with the Pats. The Pats offense isn't that great. The Pats scoring 38 against the Bears last week was kind of crazy. A lot of that was led by those special teams touchdowns. I don't think you're getting special team touchdowns in this one. So it's an interesting it's crazy unfair, the Patriots schedule. If you look at it for the rest of the season, they just have so many winnable games. The idea that this team with this, this roster, worst roster you've ever put around Brady, is going to win 14 games again is just insane. The AFC East is just brutally bad. We're going to get another Bills Patriots game. So it's nasty.
It is a nasty Monday nighter, but we will watch and bet heavily as we do. What a treat it is to work with you guys, man. I love this opportunity so much, and I'm finally seeing some fruits after that 9-2 last week. I want to keep it rolling this week, and it makes it so much easier getting to work with you guys. Also, the incredible chat here, giving us not only great insights, but funny jokes. It is absolutely, you guys make this show so special. Thank you to everyone who joined us on the chat. First off, Whale Capper in Hawaii. We are very jealous of you in Hawaii. I can't even walk alone in Costa Rica. I can't. There's a whorehouse down the road. The only place I feel safe. It looks like a beautiful locale. Would you say a goodbye and a thank you to our great friends on the chat and who are watching at SBR.com?
I certainly will. I've been sitting here watching the Surfers all of this time, and it was been outstanding as always talking to you guys. This is one of my favorite parts of the week every week, and I wouldn't miss it even when I'm in paradise. So thanks again for having me, and best of luck this weekend, guys.
Sweet, that's wonderful, Whale Capper, and always Donnie. I love working with you so much. Would you put a bow on this bad boy and send us into the weekend?
Another 5-0 for you, Jimmy. I can feel it dialing up there. Maybe you'll beat the prick, and we'll have all this money to throw around down there and celebrate. It's another, Audible. We do it Tuesdays and Fridays, fine-tune the card, the director's cut edition. We went even longer today, folks. That's some bonus material that you can dip into. Feels like the Bermuda Triangle, Costa Rica to New Jersey, all the way out to Hawaii. What's more, what's not to like? Right here, sportsbookreview.com. All NFL football season. Catch us Tuesdays and Fridays. We'll have a lot of fun. Hopefully put some more information and winners in your pocket. For Jimmy the Bag, for the Whale Capper out in sunny, I'll usually say like California, but obviously he's out there in sunny Hawaii at this point. I'm in rainy New Jersey. Have a great weekend, folks. Catch those tickets, and we'll catch you again next Tuesday on the Audible.